Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes Podcast.
If you have a contact rate of 30% on a lead source and your contacted transfer rate's 3%, is that what you're looking for? Or what specific number would you be looking for to determine what you need to do to train them better?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't looked at that percentage. For me, it's just making sure that they're getting the 3 to 4 transfers a day. Sometimes I might scale with 10 telemarketers. So some will give me 8 or 9 in a day, and then another one will give me 3. And I'm going to be happy with that, right? Now, let's say you have 2, 3 telemarketers and 2 of them you got 5 from one, you got 4 from another, and then another one's consistently getting you 1 or none. Then at that point, it's not the leads. Maybe it's just a coaching opportunity, either with the TM or your team members and taking calls from that person. But it's just where you kind of work together as a team and make sure that's a fluid transfer, right?
Okay. Yeah. I've been watching and trying to understand the metrics. And you had earlier said that you really like to look at the metrics. And I'm just trying to get an idea. Every Wednesday at 10:30, we do the meeting with the teledudes. And we role play, we kind of talk about what's working, what's not. And I'm looking at, I have the ILB leads and I have also ALM. Those are the 2 leads we have now. So the last 7 days contacted is 49% on ILB.
Oh, that's awesome.
Contacted on ALM is 40. But when I look at contacted transferred, I'm looking at ILB about a 10% rate and on ILM 7% rate. And I'm trying to understand, is that good? Is that
that's about 10%. Right. Yeah, 10% is where I think we've talked about in the past where that's solid. They talk to 10 people, you want to get at least 1 or 2 transfers from that. Yeah.
You're looking at about a 10% contacted transfer rate. What kind of contact rate are you looking at to say, hey, I'm successful on this lead source?
40%, 49%. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, day one, I remember when we first started talking about this in the different lead sources we were starting out with, we were like, shoot, if you can get 10%, that's decent. And now, I'm leveraging, I'm kind of all in with the ILB at this point. That's where we're getting 200 leads from a day. Sometimes it's 150, 200, depending on volume. Yeah, we're seeing similar results as you. Contact percentage is great.
What's your minimum number before you would say, hey, this is not a good lead source? 10%, 15, 20, 30, what contact? Yeah. If you had to put a number, a line in the sand, what would it be?
Yeah, if it's under 10%, there's something off. It could be your numbers being blocked, right, or spam or likely. And I know we've had a lot of conversations around that. And I'm sure there's going to be solutions coming out. But it could be the number thing. It could be a lack of activity, right? Just keep an eye on, is my telemarketer actually doing 500 plus dials? Most of them are. Sometimes they have a day or 2 that they're off, but that's something to keep an eye on. But those are the only 2 things that would get in the way of contact percentage, right? It's your phone number and lack of activity.
So just to clarify, because I'm a very anal person, I hate to be that way, but you had said contacted rate 10%.
Whoa, this is a family show.
Contacted rate is 10% or better, but contacted transfer rate's also 10%. Is that correct?
He's saying first day contact rate baseline 10%. You don't want to be under that. I mean, if it's 9.5 or 9, that's all right. And then it should improve over the week. Like if you look at a 7-day, like what you said, to be in the 40s.
Oh, I get it. Okay. Yeah. Cause I'm looking at today. I look at 7-day. Today we're at 13%.
That's good.
Oh, that's good.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I'm sorry guys, but I'm an FNG here and you guys got me so confused right now. So confused.
So
what's the direct question? Because we are doing a podcast, so we can go into more broad stuff.
So he's using like a lot of shortened terminology, I guess.
Gotcha.
So just kind of clarify what it is that he's saying. Not necessarily repeat the numbers, but kind of give an idea of what he's saying and why he's saying it.
Okay. Think of the entire, like we call it the telefunnel, right? The telefunnel process, It starts with dials. So you have your dials up here and your teledudettes making 500 dials a day plus, right? Maybe 5 to 700. The next step of that, and why it's so valuable, because you have the optics onto it, is the contacts. So for a first day contact, like all the leads that came in today that are called on today, the brand new leads, we want at least a 10% contact. If it's below that, we now know that either your numbers flagged, the leads all have bad numbers, something, right? Because we've made, I don't know, now it's probably 26 million dials. And that's the analytics that we have from millions and millions and millions of dials. So you're good there. If you have that 10% or greater, great. Now you want to look at, of those, how many did we actually quote, right? They were transferred and quoted. That should be 10% of that number. And then now, if all of a sudden that's lower, you want to look at, okay, there's two places that the ball got dropped. Either, well, it's somewhere on that transfer, right? If it transfers and it fails, either it's a tech issue, or on the other end, if the handoff isn't going smoothly, or the producer's not asking the right questions up front. There's a dance that has to happen between the producer and the telemarketer or the caller, where they need to be able to get that and jump into it. And all of this stuff is in the Peak Performance Challenge. So you can go right into the member site and actually we go over in detail all of those numbers. So that's really helpful for you.
But I guess overall, with all this stuff, I would look for big discrepancies. As soon as you see big discrepancies between one of the lines within the funnel, that's when you're like, that's where you need to kind of like dive into. Like when Tom asked contact rates, if it's around 10%, it can be down to 8, it can be down to 7, no big deal. But what you're looking for is like, dude, did it drop down to 5%? Did it drop down to 4 and then stay there? That's a big discrepancy. You can have 1 day off or 2 days off, not a big deal, but it's kind of like you're looking for these trending marks, right? It's kind of like the stock market. So you're looking at these trending marks. If things are really starting to trend consistently, we're talking weeks kind of thing basis. Now with like, we know that, hey, we got to figure out exactly where in the funnel we could tweak this to help it. And I think one of the things too that we see is a lot of people will start freaking out like on a day or a 2-day basis. And it's really, you're looking for more of like a week or 2 weeks or even longer basis. Where are these trends following? Because that's going to give you more real data rather than like the day-to-day or 2 days. There'll be some days that we get barely any transfers. And I probably would have freaked out if I jumped into, I have 12 telemarketers right now, 12 telemarketers, and I saw that number. I'd probably be freaking out. But now, I see the trends kind of going up and down. As long as we're like this, instead of like this for a long period of time, then I'm good. But that does come over time. So it's really just kind of like following the trends is what we're doing.
Another thing that I love is if you have multiple lead companies, like he mentioned ALM and ILB, I too have both of those. So what you'll see is some days you're like, wow, the transfers are a little down. Let me look at the numbers. The contact rate on ALM, 4%, ILB, 12%. Now there's a big swing, right? It's not we're flagged problem. It's the leads. Like in that case, the ALM leads. And then I'm on the email with the guy at ALM saying, hey, what the hell? And then all of a sudden, magically, they improve. So that's an important thing too. And I think it's valuable to have multiple sources or a company that grabs data from different places. Yeah.
Great questions.
Which is also why I like ILB, because they do it from a bunch of different places. So
cool. Did that kind of, I know
we kind of
went around, but is that pretty good, Bill? Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we can dive more into
the mute button. Thank you.
We can dive more into that stuff too. Like, feel free to ask more and more going into that, because really, if we can I always look at it like time. We can just save time instead of reinventing the wheel. You know what I mean? That's why I like following some of those trends, is because then you could just kind of dive in and save time. You see a number start changing and you're like, oh, I know exactly what to do. So anybody else for George Carbonell? Any questions for George? Yeah, Roger.
I might be able to unmute him. No, it says you have to ask him to unmute.
There he goes.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Now we're cooking.
All right.
What's up, Roger?
Good afternoon. Good morning, wherever you may be. My question revolves around spam or blocked calls. Once again, I've got 10 numbers floating through Phone Burner. Is there an easy way to check if my call is getting spam or getting marked as spam? If my telemarketer called me on each of those 10 numbers to my cell phone, would I be able to see that? Or is that too elementary of an answer to, is it that easy, or is there a harder way of doing that?
Yeah, it's not that easy because it's all carrier dependent. It's kind of a wacky world right now. There's a lot of changes going on with like the new rules that are being put in place. But yeah, I think there's 2 companies that have been like thrown around on this group. So I know we're kind of working on figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
And my question also is, if you have someone that's using Teledudes that has that spam block situation going on, and it's occurring on a lot of those phone numbers, what's the answer at that point?
Get a new number.
Delete those numbers and start all over with.
Yeah, I swap my numbers minimum once a day for all 10 of my telemarketers. Sometimes we do it 2, and if it's a slower day, we'll do it a 3rd time.
Okay. And I'm assuming my telemarketer is swapping, but let's say she's swapping and it's still getting spammed or blocked on those other numbers. Do you just clear the deck and get 10 new phone numbers through phone burner? Or
yeah.
And what is there an extra cost for that? How does that work out as far as cost wise?
I'm not sure how phone burner works.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we could dive more into that phone burner talk too later. But
I don't know if that's my situation or not. My contact rate as of yesterday was about 5%. It probably runs about 5%. It's kind of what it's doing.
Cool. That does seem a little low. And what leads are you getting?
I'm sending my leads to my telemarketer from EverQuote.
Okay. I always like to, even if it is kind of maybe on my end, I always like to call the lead company and say, hey, man, can't make this work at this price with a 5% contact. Just to be totally honest with you, I'm going to buy more leads or I'm going to buy them from somebody else, but I got to increase that contact rate. Usually when you have that conversation, it's like, well, I don't want to lose them. And he'll pay more. So even if you're not going to buy more, I would at least start the conversation that way to create some leverage.
Okay. I was talking with my TM today, Villy. She'd mentioned about ILB. Of course, I've been hearing about ILB, but I think she said that might have been put on pause by Brandon. Is that correct on ILB leads?
Where are you located?
Tennessee.
I don't know. Well, we can check with him.
Okay.
Brandon is the one that's communicating directly. He's sort of helping at a support capacity. So,
okay. And she also mentioned Maverick leads also.
Cool. I don't have any experience with Maverick.
Okay.
But I'm buying exclusively ILB at the moment, and they're pretty good. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great questions. But yeah, I would reach out to EverQuote first off, create some leverage. Maybe they can drop it $1, or maybe they can give you some free leads or something like that. And then as that goes forward, I would start there and then see what happens. Cool. Any other questions for George?
George, how do you determine how many leads you should be buying and what capacity on the back end? Just kind of that equation.
The max that I would do is no more than 50 per telemarketer. And then as we talked earlier, as you start to scale it and as you build that bank up of leads, you can really tailor that down to anywhere about 30 to 50. But yeah, I would draw the line in the sand at no more than 50 per telemarketer because they're just not going to get to everything. I mean, you can get 1,000 leads per day, but that's for one telemarketer, but that's not what it's about. It's about the activity and making sure that we are attempting contact for the same prospect. I want to shoot for at least 30 times in a given month, or 40 times in a given month. Yeah.
Hey, George, just out of curiosity, do you have your producers calling those internet leads or only your telemarketers?
I do have them on a very low priority, Tom, for like fresher stuff. So if a lead comes in, the TMs hit it right away. And then if like my salesperson's down on dials or down on sales, they can hit up the dial or two. But again, low priority, the highest priority would be follow-ups for them.
Great question. Cool. Well,
what about
George?
you, Curtis? Curtis, you buy tons of leads. Put you on the spot.
I've only been doing this like a week, Craig.
I know, but I know you and I see you on the reports for our district. So you're crushing it in Utah. So you have a lot of experience with internet leads.
I've been using live call transfers for the first part of the year, but I don't know what the deal is for here in Utah, but they can't get me the volume. So that's why I started up with you guys last week.
Yeah.
But we're using right now Quote Wizard, ILB, and Quote Nerds. Quote Wizard, I jumped on board with them because they were $2.50 a lead if you bought a bigger amount. So we're seeing how those go.
Okay.
They do some type of cost share or something.
Yeah.
Cool. What would you say, because everybody asks which lead companies are good. What would you say that you're seeing as far as the trends for those three? Just curious.
I mean, I'm looking at the contact rate. The contract rate for Quote Nerds is 30.56%. ILB is 32.5%, And then Quote Wizard, I've only used them for 2.5 days now, and it's at almost 20%.
For what time period? First day?
Oh, just over the last week.
Oh, okay.
That I've been using them.
Gotcha.
Cool.
I don't know.
I was like, first day, man, they are nice in Utah if they're picking up at 30% on the first day.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
But we're also, I mean, to start off, I also put in a bunch of my old quoted lists of everything from like Alliance. So we're calling on all those too. So
cool.
All right.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, George, for going the distance with the
last chance. If anyone wants to ask him, is it time?
For clarification, you're doing 50 new leads a day per telemarketer.
That's the max. So if you have one telemarketer, don't do more than 50 per day.
So so my current situation, and maybe I need to be tuned up here. One telemarketer, and I'm getting 15 to 20 a day. Is that not enough?
How many salespeople do you have?
Me and one other person. Yeah,
I would say probably 20 to 40. Should be good. You said you're doing about 20. As far as data leads per sales producer, at minimum, I try to do double what they used to say was only 10 per producer. I like 20 per producer at least. And then just since it's two of you, at least maybe 20 to 40 leads should get you there.
Okay. Thank you.
And so what George was saying earlier too, is it all has to do with that pipeline. So when if you're earlier on and you don't have that long pipeline in the background for them to scoop up some of those leads, like let's say you're on the first month, then you're going heavier on those leads, where 3 months in of buying 50 leads a day, then you can definitely scale back so that they can hit those older leads. Because at 50 leads a day, they can only contact each lead 10 times in a month. So I would go in 50 leads a day to fill the pipeline, but then I would slowly scale back. And then you can kind of see the trends of scaling back of where, we're getting the same amount of transfers and I'm buying less leads. And then all of a sudden you're scaling back and then you're going, okay, now I'm getting less transfers. I got to buy more leads. So it's finding that kind of like you buy more at the front. And then, it's a dance. And then you're dropping the leads a little bit. And then when you see that the transfers drop, you up the leads to get that. And then you kind of find that balance. Does that kind of make sense?
That definitely makes sense. So I dropped a little over 400 leads to start with. And then when you send the updated, and I'm using phone burner, so that's cool. I have to send the updated list, right? So when I send that updated list in, is my team automatically using those new leads first, or do I have to instruct them to do that? So what's the protocol?
They automatically, and those old leads go to the back of the line. So that's what I'm saying. Like as you fill in that pipeline, those old leads are getting to the back of the line. The new leads are filling in. Those leads that you first put in they're going to be all right, but newer leads will perform better, especially over time. So that's where you'll find that kind of balance. And how many are you buying right now? 50 a day?
15 to 20.
15 to 20.
And I'm going to toss this out there real quick. I got a 90-day free trial of EverQuote's direct transfer deal. And cool. I am in week 5 of that. And I think to date, I've gotten 10 total transfers out of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they're charging premium money on a monthly basis to do that.
Right.
So it's a lot more than what you guys are charging. So I just want to throw that out there. It's completely unsuccessful. It's nowhere near the product of what we've got going on here. Another note, as soon as that ILP deal is ready for Nebraska, give me a call. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Cool. We'll have Brandon work on that for you. Yeah. So that is a good point. I mean, when we all started this, it was kind of like, I think George was even doing live transfers. Craig was, I was, and it was like the lead companies are pretty much buying leads and they have their best interest and they know that those transfers are in short supply. So they can charge more for them, especially when it gets towards the end of the year, people are trying to make goals. So this is just a way to kind of put the ball more in your court. So I'm glad that you're having more success with us than with the other company, but cool. Well, let's wrap this cast. We can stay on for a few more minutes. George, thanks for coming on the Insurance Dudes.
Yeah, for sure, guys.
Thanks for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. George.
Yes.
Keep crushing it. Thank you.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Hey, Jason. Yes, Mr. Craig.
That was another awesome episode, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people want to get a little bit more action and learn how to do write 100,000 in premium
Yes.
off of even the worst internet leads, where could they go?
They can go to live.teledudes.com.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. Are we going to be there?
Yes, it's a weekly call that we're doing right now it's live, and it will show you the process. The entire process is super awesome.
I love it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sign up right now, live.teledudes.com.
Live.teledudes.com. That's live.teledudes.com.
Hey, Craig, there's a new community that we are starting that I cannot wait to tell everybody about. It is our live texting community where you and I are going to answer people's questions and give them free content, right?
Are you kidding me? We get to talk to them?
Yeah, which is awesome, but they have to opt in. They have to text us at 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
Nice.
Craig, are you going to respond to these texts?
I'm going to respond to them for sure. Live.
I'm into it too. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be our new texting community where we're going to get back to everybody that we can and drop some crazy content, free content, and free the calculator that you just came up with. That's right. The calling calculator, sales material. I mean, everything for insurance agents. This is it. It's the best texting community out there for insurance agents.
Well, what the heck is that number again? I can't remember it.
It's 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
I love it. I'm going to text it right now.
520-214-2219.
All right. I'll see you later, Mr. Jason.
Bye, Mr. Craig.
Wait, do they even listen to this on the radio anymore?
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
All right.